Okay, people, welcome to The Standpoint. I know this is a program that you've been looking forward to. Yes, it's here. It's the last Sunday in June. And yes, we do have a program for you. The whole of June, we've been profiling men and men who we think are doing something for society. And today, I have 4 men, young men, on the panel. Never happened before. 4. That should tell you that it is extraordinary. Now, there's been a lot of talk back and forth. And in recent times, thanks to the verbal bomb, there's been a lot of agitations, name calling, insults, and what have you, especially the young men who say they are advocates and they support the feminist movement. They've received attacks left, right, center. But today I want to find out who they are. I mean, why they do what they do. Really, do they want to be in this space? Well, let me say thank you to GTP for my cloth. Today I am rocking up is new style, down is Adepa. You can combine, whichever one you want to do. It's GTP, still timeless. And thank you to Power Cosmetics for my makeup products and makeup applied by Nax Beauty Studio. My dress was made for me by Ophelia Crossland Designs. I always fix my hair at Exotic Trends, especially the Marina Mall branch. They have branches at ANC Mall, Osu, and all over the place. But I go to the Marina Mall. We take a break. When we come back, we meet Kwabena, Farouk, and Victor. When they want to insult them, they call them the Jones. We'll be back. Welcome back. In fact, on my panel today, there's no gender balance. I've been outnumbered by school like that. Well, we have a special program because today we get to meet 4 young men who are representing quite a number of people who fight for women empowerment, who support women, who believe that women also have a right, just like every single human being. But we'll get to know them later. Let me say thank you to our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be on air for. Do you know that on the 11th of July, that's about a few days from now, the Standpoint is going to be 11 years. Yes, 11 years. Yep. And without our sponsors, I tell you, well, GTP says our style is ageless, our pattern limitless, and our designs are endless. Our beauty never fades. GTP, timeless. And Ghana Oil Company Limited, GOIL, and when Pankasa, GOIL, good energy. Now, today we are going to have a conversation, a very, very powerful and interesting conversation. And let me introduce my guest from my extreme left. I have Kwabena Akon, who is the president of Humanist Association of Ghana. Yes. Welcome to The Standpoint.
Thank you.
I will find out what it's all about, but we'll do that later. Next to him, I have, I was so fortunate to get him, Charlie, give me 5. He came all the way from Tamale, Well, I don't want to say thank you to Ife for letting me know he's in town, but I'm not saying thank you, Ife, anyway. He's Umar M. Mohammed. He's a PhD candidate, a teacher, a scholar, and an activist. And we are so glad you could join us.
I'm glad to be here.
Next to me, on my right, is Victor. Victor Isifo is a nursing officer and a gender advocate. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then the man that you can't talk about this group without, mentioning, everybody points a finger at him. Kwabena Opoku-Agyemang. He's a lecturer at the University of Ghana. Let's call him Senior John. John 1. Good to have you on the stand. But let me start with you, Kwabena. Why do you think they call you guys John?
So the problem stems from how Ghanaians in general view feminism. Ghanaians in general, so I'm generalizing here,
Yes.
tend to see feminism as something that is reserved for women who are bitter, angry, or have some problem which doesn't make sense to them. And if you see something in that way, you'll not understand why the people are not happy about something. So there's a misconception that frames how people relate to the concept. Okay, so, and again too, we live in a country where we view gender issues through an extremely narrow lens. In other words, we think that gender activism should be limited to a few things. Female genital mutilation, the Gambaga witches camp, and they always say the Gambaga witches camp. Okay.
Specifically.
Yes. And then maybe some underage sexual abuse. But if you talk about other things related to gender issues, people think it isn't necessary. So we have, and I think it is backward. So we have a backward view of gender issues. So if you stand up to talk about them, the response is, why are you so angry about this? Why are you wasting time? If a woman at a workplace talks about how her boss is sexually harassing her, some people will say, what's the big deal? Or maybe you are at fault. We live in a country where a gender minister said young girls should be careful about how they dress because that could get them into trouble. We are on a continent where a president went to an international conference and told the people there that his wife belongs to the kitchen and the other room. That was Buhari. We've had MPs. An MP in this country said that stone women who engage in adultery. Meanwhile, I won't be surprised if he and his colleagues engage in it all the time. Okay, so there are all these problems which we don't look at in a certain way. I think women are extremely intelligent and should be given the space to do what they want.
Kwabena, do you think or you know?
I know for a fact because of women I have interacted with. From my mother, through my sister, to my wife, to you, to many other women. A lot of women are intelligent. That doesn't mean men are not intelligent. Okay, but where we have a case where like we don't have a lot of women represented in certain quarters, I think it's a problem.
Uma, yes. You are from the north. You are Muslim. What has America done to you?
That's a very interesting question. And I think I get this a lot in my line of, activist work. Because people often ascribe my worldview to going to America.
Yeah.
And I think they underestimate the impact of very important and powerful female figures like yourself in this country. I knew you, long before I went to America. And the kinds of things that I'm saying today, the kinds of things that I advocate for are not just things that I learned in America, are things that I learned from strong, powerful, intelligent women like yourself in this country.
I've created a monster.
Yeah, so in essence, I have a very strong sense of, fairness and justice in everything that I do. And that influences whatever I'm doing and how I approach everything. The Right Reverend Martin Luther King once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. In this country that we live, if you go to any constituency, you have people from that constituency representing themselves. We don't say, this constituency is not educated enough. Let's get someone from Accra to go and represent them. But when it comes to women, we always go back to, they are not qualified. They are not doing enough. So I think it's a cop-out in many ways because we refuse to give women the space to represent themselves in our body politics. And I think that is unfair. That is not just. So I think that representation matters. And it doesn't matter, if you think the person representing himself or herself is not competent. The person has to be, has to represent himself.
Now, you are a humanist. Who is a humanist? President of the Humanist Association.
Well, I'm glad you asked that. Humanism is a philosophy that tries to combine empathy with logic and reasoning in everything we do. So my humanism stems from my deep empathy for others, my deep empathy for everyone around me, the environment, and for the truth. And that's basically my humanism. And the fact that I'm also an atheist, somebody who doesn't believe in God, also plays into how I see the world. Because then it forces me to look at everything through a human lens. Like there's no help coming from anywhere but from us humans. So it's all up to us to do everything ourselves. Yeah, so that's basically humanism and what fed into my humanism.
So are you saying that all humanists are atheists?
Almost all humanists are either agnostics or atheists.
Okay.
Or do not bring their belief of a higher power into their decision making.
Okay. Now let me come to you, Victor. Papa Ness, you the a male who is a Ness, and then he supports women too.
Double John.
I tell you, Double John. What's your problem?
Thank you so much, Mommy. I don't have any problem. I'm rather angry. Before I go into details, let me just say this. There are some people who identify with the movement, but shy away from the tag feminism.
Thank you.
Or being a feminist. So I'm here on a national TV to say that I am a feminist. Yes, I'm a feminist, and I'm really proud about that.
They will say you are gay.
Oh, it doesn't matter. If I'm John.
Oh yes, you chase me.
Yes, I mean we've had all those kinds of things being said about us. I'm not just a health worker. I work in a rural health center, a community clinic.
Okay.
And in this health center, not like the teaching hospitals that we have in the cities, so you see so much of these effects that we are talking about. A patient, a woman will come to you. The child is seriously sick at the point of death. Just at the verge of death, you find out, why didn't you bring the child to the hospital 2 days ago? Or, like, your child is so sick, you can't go home with the child. We need to admit this child. And the woman will be like, and of course, it's the woman that brought the child to the hospital. And you ask, where's the man? That's another topic for discussion someday. But let's just look at the effects. We want to admit your child. Or why didn't you bring your child the day the child was sick? The first thing you hear is that the father was not there. Another thing you hear about why, about us admitting your child is, I have to ask my husband first. And this is so sad because you just have, some few seconds or minutes between saving the child, giving an intervention to this child, and what could probably happen, whether the child is going to die or not. And then the woman is not independent enough to make a decision about a child that she carried 9 months with her womb. This is sad.
While you're watching The Standpoint, let me say thank you to our supporters. Yogurt. Yogurt is good for everybody, both men and women, so you must go for it. And our purified water and royal drinks by Casa Preco Company Limited, House of Foods, Cake Technique International, Myri Matt Kitchen and Event. Thank you so much to them, the terrible twins, but I love them to bits. Thank you to Yup Cleaning Services, Kodams, Impakers. We're so grateful to you as well. Let me take a break. We'll be back. this conversation. Very interesting conversation. Let me come back to you, Kwabena Enchibu-Esiako. How was growing up like for you?
The usual dad story. Dad was not really around. Mom was mostly around. But then mom also had to, go find food for us. So I got shipped over to grandma's. Grandma was very inspirational. I learned how to take off myself from her.
You know how to cook?
Yeah.
Oh,
you love my jollof.
John.
Yeah, so I basically lived with the women all my formative years. Lived with my grandma, lived with my aunties, finally lived with my mom when she finally sat down and got remarried. And throughout all of that, I never got treated differently from my sister. And that's one of the things that was inspirational about my mom. She didn't treat us any different.
You weren't given any preferential treatment because you were a boy, and therefore you don't have to cook, you don't have to sweep, you don't have to do that?
Well, if you don't cook, you don't eat. That was the deal. You cook, you eat. If you are not around when we are cooking, you are coming back to wash the dishes. So you might as well just join in the cooking. And also, if you like the food, why not learn how to cook it? Then when mommy is not around, you do it yourself. So basically, that was the whole idea of us growing up.
So would you say that's what influenced you to become a humanist?
Well, for my humanism, it was all from a lot of the science that I did back in school. It was all from a lot of I was a very curious child. By age of 11, I had finished reading the Bible. By age 13, I had started with parts of the Quran and was moving on to Hinduism, was trying to study, trying to understand. Because the thing was, I was very curious about what others thought. And from that, trying to understand the human condition, trying to understand why we do the things we do, is how I discovered agnosticism, is how I became an atheist eventually, and how I became a humanist finally. And that journey is also what led me to feminism. Because I didn't see any disparity in how my mom treated us, I wasn't aware there was a problem. It was uni that I got exposed. I was like, oh, okay, so
this is a problem.
There's a problem here. Because of a class, I think our class was 157, there was only 17 women. And then by the second year, there were only 15. So you could see them dropping off. I began to speak to them, and then I began to understand, oh, okay, so these are the impediments that are the things that are preventing you from moving on. And so most of my partners were actually the women, and I try as much as possible to push them. And even though we are done with school, I still have that clique with them, and I always encourage them, you do your masters, you do your PhD, break the boundaries in those areas. The men have already done it.
So you are opening doors and holding doors open.
Exactly.
Let me come to Umar. Oh, this one is true now. Oh. It's doors we are opening now. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Tamale.
Tamale.
Yes.
How was life like for you?
I grew up in a household where the gender roles were strictly defined. I grew up with my grandfather, and he's very strictly traditional in that respect. And I'd always enjoyed speaking with my grandma because she was a trader. She still is a trader. She traveled to all these different marketplaces, and there were always interesting stories when she came back to speaking with her friends. And I loved listening to her and her friends talk about all these different things that they were doing. But my grandpa didn't really like the idea of a man sitting down listening to what he called women's gossip. So it was an interesting battle that I had to fight as a kid growing up in that kind of household. I love my grandpa. He's very progressive in many areas, but in some areas, very traditional. So I grew up in that household, seeing that when we came home from school, I could go and play soccer if I wanted, or go and study if I wanted. But my sister, who stayed with me with my grandfather, would have to go do the cooking and house chores and the like. So when I reflect on my childhood, I can clearly see the kinds of opportunities that I was given compared to my sister. And if you grow up and you have a sense of fairness, if you grow up in Ghana, in most households, and you have a sense of fairness, you should be angry about that.
Right.
That's why I find it interesting when people talk about anger, regarding feminists, and they make it a slur.
It's not just anger, bitter.
Bitterness.
Bitter.
Yeah. It should not be a slur. If you look at world history, people have been angry, and anger has resolved a lot of issues.
Yeah.
If something is wrong, and you see that it's that a group of people or a system is perpetuating that wrongness, and you are not angry enough to get rid of it, then what's your moral code?
So, Opoku-Agyemang, it's not like, as you say, you're looking for attention or recognition.
Yes.
Do you have a story as
think,
the journey here?
I think my childhood was extremely privileged. So I grew up on a university campus, University of Cape Coast campus, and both my parents were lecturers. So both parents were around a lot, especially my mother. And I have a sister and I have a brother too. And there was no real distinction, between any of us. And incidentally, we all have PhDs now. Wow. Okay. And
hey, I correct that. Dr. Opoku-Agyemang.
I mean,
that's the name. That's the title.
So, of course, I don't think my sister has had the same journey as I have had. And I've not necessarily spoken to her extensively about the problems she has gone through. And it also doesn't mean that because she has it, she didn't go through problems. And even if she didn't go through many problems, it doesn't mean women don't go through these things. Yeah. Like Kwabena, I also read a lot. I have not read so many religious texts, but I'm a literature major. And when you're a literature major, you have to read books, plays, stories, anything at all. And I like to read. So I saw a lot of things, and it helped me with perspective too. So you get to learn something about what's called male privilege. Okay, and you get to know that there are so many things that we take for granted as males. Okay, and I mean, I like to give banal examples so that then we can think of the bigger examples. For instance, I've asked in my class, where does a woman feel pain when she's in her period? A guy will say, oh, her stomach, her leg, her this, her that, you see? And that ignorance is striking. Yeah. Then we come to learn that actually the pain can be so intense, you'll miss school. Yeah. Or you'll be in class and you can't concentrate. Then instead of getting an A, you'll get a D. So you see, and we don't think about these things as men. If you take any female politician, like recently, a few weeks ago, when this whole Akufo-Addo thing happened, and Nana Oyelitha was criticizing him, the first thing most people said was about her marital problems. Yeah. When Esla Osu has been on TV talking about things, they call her very nasty names linked to the fact that she's a woman. But when all these male characters go and say nonsensical things, pardon my language,
it's allowed.
Nobody says something like, oh, he's had children with other women, or oh, he sleeps around, or oh, he chases his assistant. Nothing like that. And those are all examples of things that lead to this burden that women have that we don't think about. And like I said, I'm giving banal examples. They are larger, more difficult ones, and so on and so forth. But so, just back to your question, my childhood was not difficult, right. But I'll try to understand that not everyone had that childhood I had, which gave me that grounding. So sometimes that's why they behave the way they do.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah, but all the same, I mean, we'll come back to have a broader discussion, but like Umar growing up didn't have that.
Yes.
Was told that men don't do this, men don't. But then he grew up. That's one thing that I always try to bring out in conversation. It doesn't matter how you are socialized.
True.
You can learn. You can read. So it gets to a point where no excuse is good enough.
I agree with you on that. And that is why you have to be willing to learn. Okay?
Exactly.
Because, I mean, ultimately, we are all malleable, right?
Yes.
And again, we have people who are hardcore feminists now who were the opposites maybe a decade ago, or 2 days ago, or 5 days ago, okay, people have their Damascus moment in different ways, and it's not always as dramatic as Paul's own. We tend to have a very narrow lens of feminism in this country, but I use the Christianity analogy to show why it doesn't make sense. Okay, when it comes to Christianity, we understand that you can be Catholic, you can be Methodist, you can be Presbyterian, you can attend Lighthouse, you can be SDA, you can even be Latter-day Saints, you can go to Obinim's church, you can be in a prophetic ministry, and so on and so forth. And we agree that these are all Christianity. But when it comes to feminism, it's like you all have to be the same thing. But you can also have opposing views under feminism. So, for example, if you're talking about, let's say, prostitution, okay, some feminists will say prostitution is a way of subjugating women. They are open to STIs, they are open to violence, and so on and so forth. Some feminists too will say that like a prostitute has control of her body and her actions. These are opposing views, but they can both be feminist. So I don't see why we try to make it look like all feminists should be the same. So they'll ask you, why is this feminist doing this? But they won't ask you, like, maybe why does this Catholic priest not marry? Actually takes a vow of celibacy, while some other pastors have 15 children.
Let me take a break. When we come back, Victor, I'll come and listen to your story. But to add to what the analogy you're making with Christians, you know, Christians across preach that divorce is bad. But we have pastors who have divorced and remarried.
Exactly.
And now it's quite a number of them.
Plenty.
We'll be back. Welcome back to The Standpoint. Remember, this program is also aired on ABN TV on Sky Channel 195 across Western Europe, parts of Canada and Asia. It's also on Virgin TV Channel 842, which is UK based. Our website, www.thestandpoint.com.gh, is powered by Dream Oval. And make sure you always subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's The Standpoint. Now, Victor.
I was born in Alerigu in the north. We lived in a compound house, and my sister and I divided the compound into two equal parts. Like there wasn't oh, she's a lady, she's going to do more, or she's going to do this and I'm going to do that. We divided it, and I knew my territories. So if I woke up at 5, I knew I was supposed to sweep up to this point. So I'll just sweep, get there, and then leave the rest for my sister. If she also wakes up, she sweeps her part and leave my part for me to come and do. This is how we're raised. If it's got to do with cooking, when we all come back from school and then we have lunch, we get into the kitchen. She's doing this, I'm doing this. She's doing this, I'm doing that. So I never, had the mentality that certain roles in the kitchen belong to women. I never saw that thing happen. And in one of my pictures that I posted on Facebook, you saw me strap a baby at my back. Now, this was at the workplace. The woman, the nurse over there, had just returned from maternity leave. That's about just 4 months. So within that 4 months, she had to come to work. No provisions have been made in the workplace for women who are breastfeeding. No provision has been made for women who are lactating mothers. Like, they should just come back to work without giving them those provisions. So here we were at the workplace, and then several emergencies were rushed in. The baby was crying. There is nowhere to keep the baby. There is no one to take care of the baby. So she had to strap the baby at her back and still work on the patient. I noticed that while she was working, because these were emergencies, and then there were a couple of them, like, she found it difficult because the baby was quite heavy, and at the time, the baby was struggling to kind of get out. Because I knew how to do it from the beginning, from childhood. That is the way we were raised. Like I told you, they didn't define gender roles for us. I took the baby, strapped the baby on my back, and I continued to do the work and gave her that freedom to be able to work. Now, that is not right. We are supposed to make provisions for all these things.
How do we come together as a group and move forward and not let all that we've done in the past go to waste?
For me, the way forward is having a unified movement where we try and put in our own representatives, where we try to recruit people for political office, on our own agenda, so that they have allegiance to us, as well as the communities for which they are
where the us refers to the movement, because Kwabena, I find it quite interesting that even when it comes to issues concerning women, women in parliament are not able to unite.
Yes.
And come out with it.
Yes. It speaks to what my brother was talking about. They don't owe us any allegiance. They don't owe the movement any allegiance. And I think it's about time we, following from what he's saying, took a cue from the religious movements in the country, where there's a Christian caucus in parliament, there's a Muslim caucus in parliament. Whenever there's an issue, it's bipartisan. They just come together, they bind together, and then they face. And in those instances, even if, in my opinion, they are wrong, you are seeing how effective they are. So we need to create such bipartisan movements in places of power. We need to be able to put people there that we know are for the movement, that we know will push the agenda forward.
Victor, where do we go from here?
If the Bible says that wives should submit to husbands, they read all that aspect, but forgetting that prior to that verse, the Bible stated that submitting to each other.
And also they say the husband should give their life as Christ gave for the church,
Yes.
which is even worse.
And this is my point of argument
that
all the
one,
time.
they-
I've always been saying
That one, they are not sure it's in there, but they suspect it's a woman who put it there.
the Bible stated clearly that the man should love the wife, the woman should submit. Let's get these things clear. What is love? We are not talking about any platonic form of love. The love that the Bible is talking about over there is agape. It's an unconditional form of love. So that means that the love of the husband shouldn't even be conditioned on the woman's submission. Because once you bring in the submission bit, it's a condition to the love.
Yeah.
So as a man, you have been given an extra responsibility that whether she submits to you or not, you still have to love her.
Like Christ
but
did.
like Christ loved the church. But submission on the other aspects, it's not like that. So if you do not treat me right, I can decide not to submit to you. you get it.
That's an interesting angle.
Yes. If you decide not to treat me right, I can decide not to submit to you. So the man has been given a bigger responsibility to love the woman as Christ loved the church.
There are lots of, gender activists now and the feminists who are, not everybody can be like Gifty Auntie, and not everybody can be like, let's say, Oyelita or Eslowusu and what have you. But some of them are now afraid to come out because whatever I say, if you're not, then you'll be branded politically. And there are people who are giving up. Some of us, we are all being attacked, insulted, and everything. Not all of people can continue. Some may give up. What is your word to them?
Recognize your privilege, recognize your power, recognize that whatever position you are in, what you are fighting for is bigger than you. It's bigger than wherever you find yourself in. And whatever little sacrifice that you make, it could be just sharing, echoing someone else's voice if you can't find your own. It could be just that, or liking someone's post, or just going in your own small area, just talking to a friend, you are in a Trotsky, just starting a conversation in your own small area. You don't have to come out big, be like the face of feminism, but at least in whatever small way, whatever small pocket you find yourself in, start a conversation.
Starting a conversation. Uma?
I think we often give up because we personalize some of these things. The movement is not about you alone. It's about the body politic. And sometimes cynicism can rear its head in a very ugly way. Right. When you are met with very firm resistance. And power doesn't give up power, easily. It has to be forced. We're getting the backlash from power. That's why we have an entire governmental structure working overtime, to crush, the movement. And that should be an inspiration to you as well. Every single one who believes. That should be an inspiration. You're being fought back very fiercely. And you must take inspiration from that.
Yes, Victor.
There are so many misconceptions about feminism out there. Let us ask the right questions. Let us do some little research on the subject and then give feminism a listening ear. It will do us all good.
Dr. Opoku-Agyemang.
So I'd like to break protocol quickly by just saying hello to all the viewers, especially the Facebook crowd. I want to give a shout out to them.
It's important.
Something that I've always said I'll do, I never
important.
do. But back to the issue, I would say thank you for the work you are doing. I think you are doing massive work, and I think we should just give a quick round. So we have to understand that people like you, apart from the actual work you are doing, just by being there, you are providing a lot of hope to all kinds of people. You are telling women that they can be where you are. They're also telling men that it's fine if you are there. So when we have more people like you in more places like these, the problem like what Victor was talking about won't happen, because they'll see that there are actually women doctors who are in places. So it's fine to have a woman doctor wherever they could be, and so on and so forth. So I think that we need to encourage and support people like you, women in all kinds of areas, and hope that we have better representation all across the board moving forward.
So we have some packages for you, just to let you know that we appreciate you. We know what you're doing and how you're contributing to the movement. It hasn't been an easy ride, but you are here. Let me see. Okay, so this went to Victor. Victor, I owe you something else. So I'll bring it. So you can bring it out to here. Dr. This is you. You can bring it out for us to see what's in there. Uma, that's yours. And this is yours, Kwabena. So you can, yeah. Do you drink tea, Milo, or cocoa, or rice water? Which one do you? No. Uma, where's,
You want us to open it?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. So when the Kwabena opens, yeah.
Let's see.
I think it's the same thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yours is different. Okay, face towel.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure that. So I owe you face towel. You shall definitely get it. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, and I think this is just to encourage each other.
Thank you so much.
Have the conversation.
Thanks so much for having us.
And every now and then we'll have to meet again.
Sure. For sure.
We have to be dynamic.
The
The dynamism and activism will have to continue.
Open the doors.
We'll keep opening the door. I'll be back with a bit of.
I think, Kwabena, you have the keys.
You know, for my master's degree in international journalism, I wrote a thesis on multiple identities in journalism. And as a people, we all have multiple identities. How we were raised, the tribe we come from, our beliefs, our religion, our association, it all comes in to form our worldview of issues. Feminism, please get this, is not about morality. It is not. It's about rights. It's as simple as that. I'm a Christian, so yes, I will be adding my Christian bit or pushing my Christian agenda through using the women, which I do. I use the women in the Bible to back my idea and my beliefs in feminism. Talk about how strong women, even the Rahabs in the Bible, the roles they play positively to save people, to save nations. The Deborahs and the Abigails and the Hannahs and the Dorcases. And I can mention many whose names were, so I use that. So it does it the same way a feminist who's a Muslim can mention the names of the Nana Fatima, the Nana Khadijas, and so on and so forth. The traditionalists will use Yasan, Nana Yasan Tua. And many great women that have gone through the systems in this country of ours. So please, if you don't understand something, let's not stigmatize and criminalize and, start calling people names and so on and so forth and tag people just because of their beliefs. You take your time and understand it. You take your time because we are all human beings. God created us in his own image, male, female. But whether you want to speak the truth or not, the systems have been skewed against women for too long. Too long. And it will take some push. And yes, I said it will take some opening of doors for some women to have the boldness. Some women even have to be told that you can do it. And let me tell you, young woman coming up, if they tell you you're not confident, you're not bold enough, nobody was born confident. Nobody was born bold. If you're fortunate to have parents or guardians who encourage you, who incorporated in you or socialized you to be confident, it's good and thank God for that. But you, if you didn't have anyone, you can still learn. It takes practice. It takes practice. Women of Ghana, let's rise up. Let us rise up and take our places. Take our rightful places. Let us stop being afraid of the insults. Let us stop being afraid of the name tags and, the threats of you won't get a husband and you won't do this. Let us stop it. Because even you who doesn't believe in feminism, we are doing this for the future of your daughter, for the future of your son. Because nothing, no plane, no country can develop standing on just one leg. And I've been through some difficult times with my right leg, lately, and I tell you, managing with one leg was hell. Was absolute hell. So I don't know how we can do it. Well, I'm a woman with super crazy faith in God. I know that he created me to be great. He gave me a voice. And by the grace of God, he's giving me a platform. I'm not going to shut up. But he's giving me wisdom. And I pray that I will use it. Thanks for watching. See you same time next week. Bye for now.